Children in the UK today are facing challenges that can sometimes feel impossible to manage. Both William and I have seen firsthand how deeply bullying is affecting many young people. This particular moment wasn't supposed to be shared. There was no official live stream, no media coverage, and nothing posted on the royal website. The gathering was meant to be quiet and personal. A small group of charity representatives, healthcare workers, and a few invited guests met at Kensington Palace for a private discussion about resilience and the power of community. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, attended with her usual quiet grace. What no one expected was what happened next. A speech that would shift everything. Someone inside the room recorded it, though their identity remains unknown. The footage, grainy and vertical, was taken from the back of the room. It showed the princess in a soft blue outfit, speaking without a script or notes. Just her voice, her thoughts, and a message no one saw coming. When the clip surfaced online, it went viral almost instantly. Millions watched, stunned. Kate spoke from the heart, about grief, about being a mother, and about what it feels like to carry the weight of a family that represents an entire nation. She mentioned Queen Elizabeth II, whom she described as her guiding light during difficult times, and spoke of Princess Diana, saying, "She showed the world that compassion has a place on the throne." Her words were honest, powerful, and deeply moving. No rehearsed lines, no royal polish, just Kate, speaking as herself. In no time, the hashtag Queen Kate began trending globally. Celebrities reposted the clip, reporters picked it apart frame by frame, and royal fans called it a defining moment. To many, it was more than just a touching speech. It was the moment people began to truly see her as the future queen. But not everyone was pleased. Behind palace walls, concern grew. The royal team scrambled to take down the video, filing copyright complaints and reaching out to platforms to have it removed. According to insider reports, Queen Camilla was furious, calling the speech unauthorized and irresponsible. Sources say Camilla was deeply unsettled. She feared not only what Kate had said, but how the world responded. It wasn't just a touching speech. It threatened to shift the delicate balance of influence within the royal family. But by the time concerns reached the top, it was too late. The video had already exploded across social media. People had seen it, shared it, talked about it. And ironically, the palace's urgent efforts to erase it only fueled more interest. Kate had voiced something the monarchy rarely dares to say, something that resonated far beyond palace walls. It wasn't meant to be a turning point, but it became one. In a room meant for a select few, a princess stepped forward and spoke like a queen, and the world took notice. But before we continue, we'd love for you to hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying this video. If you just did, we truly appreciate it. Now, let's get back to the main content. Camilla didn't forget that moment. The event itself was intended to be discreet, nothing flashy. Just a routine reception at Kensington Palace, organized with various frontline charities that focus on mental health, grief, and recovery. A short guest list, no press corps. A few official photos were scheduled, but that was all. The plan was simple. Catherine would attend, offer warm greetings, and maybe share a few carefully reviewed words, the usual protocol. But as the evening unfolded beneath the soft lights of the reception hall, something unexpected happened. After a young student finished speaking and guests began reaching for their coats, one of the organizers casually asked if Catherine wanted to say a few words, just something informal. She glanced at her team. There was a brief pause, then she nodded. What followed left the entire room in awe. No podium, no prepared remarks, no screen. Kate stepped forward, hands gently clasped, her expression composed but deeply sincere. Her voice was quiet at first, but it commanded attention. Within moments, the room fell completely still. "I wasn't planning to speak tonight," she began, with a soft smile. "But sometimes staying silent feels like letting the moment pass us by. Those 6 minutes weren't rehearsed, but according to one guest, it felt like history being made in real time. She spoke about grief, both personal and national, and reflected on the absence left by the Queen's passing. What stood out, though, was how she described herself. Not as royalty, but as a person. A woman, a partner, a mother. "We don't often talk about how heavy this can all feel," she said, as one attendee recalled. "The pressure to keep smiling, to stand strong, to hold everything together, even when inside things feel fragile." And then came the line that many said struck the deepest chord. She paused, looked down for a moment, took a breath, and said quietly, "There were days when I didn't think I could carry the weight of this role." "I remember something the Queen once told me," Kate said quietly. "Duty isn't always grand. Sometimes it's just the choice to stand back up." Two attendees later recalled that in that moment, several people wiped away tears. Others just stood there, stunned, as if they'd heard a monarch speak, not in the traditional royal tone, but in a way that felt deeply human. Not distant, not polished, just real. She thanked the frontline workers for showing up even when no one was watching. She spoke about service, not as something celebrated, but as something done when you're at your lowest. She described motherhood as one of the most private acts of bravery, and she shared that she keeps a drawer by her bed filled with letters from survivors, stories of loss and resilience that have given her strength in the darkest moments. There were no catchphrases, no sweeping declarations, just sincerity. "We all carry burdens people can't see," she said, "but we can also be each other's light." And that's when it happened. A quiet shuffle from the back of the room. Someone, likely a guest or maybe a junior staff member, pulled out their phone. Not out of malice or disregard, but because they realized they were witnessing something rare, something important. They pressed record. That unsteady, low-resolution clip, captured just before the event was set to end, would go on to create a storm no one at the palace had prepared for. Within a day, the video was anonymously uploaded to X, formerly Twitter. Within 2 days, it had made its way across TikTok, into morning news segments, and onto commentary panels where every word, pause, and expression was analyzed in detail. But people didn't just react to what she said. They felt it. To many viewers, this wasn't just another royal appearance. It marked a turning point. The moment when Catherine, Princess of Wales, stepped forward not as a figurehead, but as a future queen stepping into her role. She hadn't planned it. The palace hadn't greenlit it. But for those few minutes in a quiet reception room, Kate Middleton showed the world a different kind of royalty. Not the kind built on tradition and titles, but on presence, honesty, and heart. The speech didn't go viral because it was dramatic. It didn't make waves because of some grand announcement. It mattered because it was real, and people recognized the truth in it. It was the words themselves, raw, unpolished, and deeply human. The kind of words no one expects to hear from a royal. The video, though grainy and dimly lit, captured something that felt almost out of place, a moment of realness that cut through the formality. In just 6 minutes, Kate Middleton broke through centuries of royal tradition and created something far more powerful: connection. This wasn't a speech crafted for applause. It wasn't a photo op for palace PR. And yet it resonated with millions, because at its core was the one thing people have long wanted from their royals: honesty. Kate offered it without cue cards, without polish, without hesitation. "Some days I feel like I'm not enough. Not enough as a mother, not enough as a wife, not enough as a symbol." Those words didn't echo through historic halls or chambers of power. They echoed through ordinary places, homes, hospitals, shelters, kitchens, where people stopped what they were doing to listen. "I'm learning that strength isn't silence. It's standing up, even when your knees are shaking. It's letting people see the cracks and choosing to keep going anyway." Within hours, social media lit up. Thousands of comments poured in. "This is the first time I've cried watching a royal. That speech healed something in me I didn't realize was broken. Diana would be proud." And it wasn't just the UK. In Canada, anchors read her words live on national television. In Australia, morning shows aired the full video. In the US, podcasts broke down every word, gesture, and pause. The message was clear and unanimous. This woman isn't pretending to be queen. She's already living it. Her words felt more profound than any royal oath, more relatable than any official press statement. They cut through generations of stoic, carefully staged monarchy. Kate didn't issue commands or promises. She simply offered understanding. She didn't place herself above others. She stood with them. One moment in particular was replayed more than any other. "The Queen once told me, 'Your quiet will speak louder than your words.' But I had to speak today, because the quiet has been too loud for too long." It struck like lightning, a moment where the past, present, and future of the monarchy came into focus in a single voice. Kate didn't deliver a royal performance. She delivered truth. And that's what made history. For the first time in years, it felt like the crown wasn't hovering above the people. It was standing beside them. Kate never mentioned a crown that evening. She didn't need to. In the eyes of the public, it was already hers, not because of any title, but because of the quiet strength she showed. Real power doesn't need to raise its voice. It simply speaks, and somehow still moves mountains. By the next morning, the video had crossed 1 million views. By lunchtime, it had been translated into 7 languages, and by the end of the week, it had been watched over 40 million times, just on public platforms. Inside Buckingham Palace, however, there was no celebration, no quiet acknowledgement, no mention of what many were already calling the most powerful royal speech since Princess Diana. Instead, there was panic. As the clip began to gain momentum, palace officials scrambled to contain it. What the public saw as honest and groundbreaking, the institution saw as risky and off-script. This wasn't part of the plan. It hadn't gone through the usual channels. It wasn't reviewed, revised, or signed off by the royal communications team. It didn't align with the palace's tightly controlled narrative of unity and order. To those behind the scenes, it wasn't just a viral moment. It felt like a shift in power dynamics that no one had authorized. The response was swift. Shut it down. Royal lawyers fired off a wave of copyright claims. Platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and X, formerly Twitter, were contacted directly. Clips were flagged. Some were removed. News outlets were issued warnings not to rebroadcast the speech in full. Behind closed doors, the debate was tense. Some aides viewed the speech as a gift, a rare, unscripted moment that could bring the monarchy closer to the people, a breath of fresh air in an otherwise heavily scripted institution. Others, especially those in Queen Camilla's inner circle, saw it as a threat, a break in protocol, a step too far. According to multiple insiders, Camilla was furious, not just because the speech spread like wildfire, but because of what came after. It wasn't just the words that went viral, it was the image of Kate, not as the Princess of Wales, but as something more, something inevitable. It made her look like the real queen. That, according to one insider, was the problem. Camilla was said to be furious, demanding answers about how the speech had been allowed to happen without clearance, who had leaked the footage, and why no stronger legal action had already been taken. Rumors even swirled that the Queen Consort suspected Kate's own team of deliberately leaking the video, a claim firmly denied by those close to the Princess of Wales. In truth, no one knows who pressed record. And in a royal household obsessed with control, that uncertainty created more chaos than the speech itself. The irony was immediate and striking. The more the palace tried to erase the footage, the more unstoppable it became. Clips were saved, mirrored, downloaded, and reposted. TikTok filled with reaction videos. Royal fans edited the speech together with images of Princess Diana and Queen Elizabeth II. One viral version, set to the theme music from The Crown, racked up over 10 million views in a single weekend. Kate said nothing. She didn't repost the clip. She didn't comment on it. She didn't deny it, nor did she bask in the praise. Her silence only deepened the public's fascination, adding an air of calm and quiet strength that many interpreted as regal. The contrast was striking. As royal aides scrambled behind the scenes, trying to contain the situation, the public began to ask an obvious question. Why would they want this video taken down? Unless it revealed something true. And that was the heart of it. The speech felt true. Too sincere, too vulnerable, too human to be part of a PR campaign. It couldn't be buried by protocol. It didn't follow the rules. And that's why it resonated. Kate had spoken. The world had listened. And now not even the palace could silence it. Camilla's anger simmered beneath the surface, hidden behind tradition and titles, but no less real. There was no public outburst, no official reaction, but within the palace walls, those closest to the situation knew exactly how she felt. Her frustration wasn't just about a viral video. It wasn't even just about the public's overwhelming support for Kate. What stung most was that, in just a few days, Catherine had done what Camilla had spent nearly 2 decades trying to achieve. She had won the hearts of the people. Effortlessly. And perhaps the hardest part to swallow was this. She hadn't even tried. Camilla had always known that her position within the monarchy came with conditions. She was never embraced the way Diana had been, never idolized. Her path to acceptance had been long, calculated, and often painfully slow. She followed the rules, stayed behind the scenes, and waited patiently for her moment. And just when she had finally settled into her role as queen consort, Kate Middleton stole the spotlight with a single, unplanned speech. In the days after the video exploded online, reports emerged that Camilla called a private emergency meeting with her closest advisors. At the top of the agenda, how to regain control of the narrative. One aide allegedly overheard her say sharply, "She's not queen, she's not even ready for it." The frustration in her voice was unmistakable. Sources say Camilla immediately pushed for a shift in the public schedule. More appearances, carefully staged photographs, and strategic messaging designed to reassert her and Charles at the center of royal life. But it didn't work. The spotlight had shifted, and it wasn't shifting back. Kate now held the public's attention, not by asking for it, but simply by showing up as herself. The nation had already chosen where to look. What bothered Camilla most wasn't popularity, it was perception. The growing idea within the palace that Kate had become the calm, reliable figure holding the monarchy steady. Servants and junior staff reportedly began referring to her as the crown's anchor, the bridge between generations, the royal who made the institution feel human again. Camilla could sense it. The balance was changing. The relationship between the two women had never been particularly warm. Civil, yes, respectful in public, but not close. After the video, that polite distance hardened. At a state luncheon just days later, their interaction was described as frosted glass, presentable, but cold. Camilla never publicly addressed the speech, but her silence, much like Kate's, spoke volumes. Behind palace walls, whispers spread that she had warned King Charles he was losing control of the public narrative and of his own reign. Charles, exhausted and in fragile health, reportedly urged calm. He chose quiet diplomacy, hoping to smooth tensions without taking sides. Kate, for her part, didn't respond with drama. She didn't push back or defend herself. She smiled, stayed composed, and gave her next public address from a teleprompter. Careful, professional, and perfectly measured. But the shift had already happened, and it didn't damage Kate. It cast a long shadow over Camilla. The queen consort now found herself standing behind someone who had done the impossible, earned the loyalty and admiration of the people without seeking it, without a title, and without palace approval. And Camilla felt it, not just in public opinion, but in the way people inside the palace looked at her. She was no longer the queen who mattered. She still held the title. But Kate had something far more powerful, the crown without ceremony and the love of the people without a single battle. In the days following the viral speech and the palace's increasingly desperate efforts to contain it, Prince William remained publicly silent, not because he didn't care, and certainly not because he was unaffected. William, much like his mother before him, understood the value of timing within the royal machine. But those close to him say he was livid behind closed doors, not at Kate, but at the institution itself. And if the rumors are true, at Camilla. He had watched his wife endure years of media pressure, relentless public scrutiny, and private emotional toll with unwavering grace. He had seen her navigate motherhood under a microscope, balance duty with dignity, and stay composed in the face of illness, betrayal, and icy palace politics. And now, after all of it, she was being punished for being loved. According to palace sources, William confronted senior aides shortly after takedown notices were sent to platforms hosting the video. His voice was calm, but the message was unmistakable. "You will not silence my wife." It was the first time in years that William had openly criticized the palace's media team, and it marked a shift, not just in tone but in direction. He was done playing the quiet air just to keep peace. He was ready to protect Catherine, not behind the scenes but in full view. Not long after that confrontation, a quiet but deliberate change was made to William's upcoming schedule. A child mental health charity event that had been planned as a solo appearance was suddenly updated. Kate would now be attending too. Standing side by side before a crowd of press and guests, William took the microphone and spoke about courage, the kind it takes to speak up when no one expects you to. "I'm proud of my wife every day," he said, pausing before adding, "but some days I'm in awe of her." The applause was instant, heartfelt, and loud. It was subtle, but it couldn't have been clearer. William wasn't just supporting Kate. He was standing with her, raising her. He wanted the world to know he was behind the woman his mother would have admired, the woman the late queen had quietly entrusted with the monarchy's heart, and the woman the public already saw as their queen. And the people responded. Polls showed a sharp rise in support for the Waleses. Editorials praised William's quiet strength and emotional clarity. Headlines declared him a king in waiting. But more importantly, a husband first. Still, beyond the media coverage and numbers, something deeper had shifted. Within an institution long built on tradition, hierarchy, and control, William had delivered a quiet but undeniable message. Kate is not alone. She is not ornamental. She is not beneath you. She is the future, and if you try to dim her light, you'll have to go through me. In that moment, echoes of Diana's resolve could be felt, as well as the composed firmness once embodied by Queen Elizabeth II. William wasn't raging. He wasn't staging a rebellion. He was simply standing by the woman who had carried so much, so quietly, for so long, and asking nothing in return. He didn't have to shout. He didn't have to protest. All he had to do was stand beside her, and in doing so he reminded the world, legacy isn't just passed down, it's protected, and he would protect hers with everything he had. The palace tried to bury it all, more takedown requests, tighter media restrictions, carefully managed photo ops, but it was already too late. Not damage, transformation had already begun. In a world saturated with royal spectacle, Kate Middleton did something no crown, title, or press statement ever could. She spoke from the heart. And people didn't just hear her, they felt her. The speech, unrehearsed and imperfect, became the moment that millions would look back on as the quiet turning point. The day the monarchy shifted, not with fanfare, but with feeling. In just 6 minutes, the Princess of Wales broke through the polished distance that so often defines the royal institution. She reminded the world that real strength lies in vulnerability, that leadership means service, that grace isn't performed, it's lived. She never once mentioned the throne. She didn't call herself queen. She didn't have to. Because when the video began circulating and hashtags like #Queen Kate, #The Real Crown, and Kate for the People flooded social media across the globe, the public had already decided. She wasn't just the future of the monarchy, she was its present. The palace may have scrambled to contain it. Camilla may have reacted with frustration. Advisors may have whispered behind closed doors, worried about appearances. But outside the gates of the institution, the people had seen something they hadn't seen in a long time: authenticity. And in that authenticity, they saw what truly defines royalty. Not rituals, not lineage, but humanity. Kate never publicly commented on the video. She didn't defend it, explain it, or try to manage the reaction. She didn't need to. Because when she finished that speech, standing alone, with no script, no teleprompter, just her voice and her truth, she stepped into something far greater than a formal title. She stepped into quiet leadership. And history has shown time and again that not all queens wear gold crowns. Some are crowned by their courage, some by their compassion, and some, like Kate, are crowned in the hearts of those they serve. The palace may have tried to erase the video, but what it revealed couldn't be erased. It wasn't just the emergence of a future queen. It was the moment the world made its choice. The speech didn't threaten the monarchy. It may have saved it. And more remarkably, it did something no throne ever could. It crowned a queen, without ceremony, without approval, and without question.